The Consumer Bankers Association is pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, Beyond Bills and Transactions, Designing Digital Tools Consumers Actually Use, presented by Atomic Financial. My name is Isabella. It's my pleasure to facilitate today's event. Thank you for joining. Please note we are recording and all participant lines are muted. If you have any trouble, please email conferences@consumerbankers.com or send a message in the Q&A box. This presentation will last up to 60 minutes and will include question and answer opportunities at the end. You may submit a question at any time by entering the questions into the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. As a reminder, the views expressed in this webinar, those of the presenters, do not represent the views of CBA or its members. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speakers, Andrea Martone, co-founder and chief product officer at Atomic, and Kyle Cyr, head of customer success at Atomic. Andrea and Kyle, welcome.
Great. Thank you so much for the intro, Isabella. We're super excited to be here with you all today, and we look forward to having some time to talk about ways in which we can together design digital tools that will really resonate and excite consumers. I know there's probably a varying degree of familiarity with Atomic, so I thought I would start today's webinar with just some background on us as a company. Kind of where we started, where we are today, and then a bit about our decision-making process along the way and how we decided to place bets on the products that we did. So Atomic was founded back in 2019 by fintech entrepreneurs, and their mission at the time was to really champion upward financial mobility for all. And one of the first opportunities that we saw in this space was to reimagine the very manual, very tedious process of switching your direct deposit when you initiate a new banking relationship. Or when you've been a banking customer for a little while, but you have put off, downloading, filling out, and submitting forms to your HR department. So in the early days of Atomic, we focused pretty heavily in the fintech and neobank space. That aligned really well with our mission and was a good opportunity for us to kind of test our hypothesis on the need for this type of solution. And it became clear really early on, there was a lot of traction for our direct deposit switching product, and we saw really good adoption rates. And so we realized, along with some of our current customers, that there was also a very strong need for this type of product in more of the traditional banking space as well. And so today, we're fortunate enough, we work with 8 of the top 10 US banks, as well as 13 of the top 20 fintech firms. And this has really just reinforced our belief that there's a general market need for better engagement tools in general in the banking space. And so, we build tools that the financial institutions deploy, but we ultimately are always designing our tools with the end consumer in mind. We all have bank accounts. We've all had bank accounts for quite some time here at Atomic. And so we really think a lot internally and have a lot of discussions about how people actually use their bank accounts. How did they use them in the past? How are they going to use them in the future? And just what types of experiences they want to see in these bank accounts. What's going to make them feel supported and informed and in control of their financial picture. And we also understand on the bank side of the house, you all are focused on primacy and building these deeper, longer lasting engagements for your customer. And so, once direct deposit had matured a bit, we started to hypothesize around, where could we go next in the customer life cycle? And the natural kind of next step we saw was that, consumers have the inflow with their direct deposit, but how could Atomic also support moving over some of the outflows that might have existed in their previous account? And so this was really where our payment switching product was born. So if you think about it, someone moves over their direct deposit, one of the next actions that they might look to take is to start to move over things like their Netflix, their Hulu subscriptions, or their cell phone bill. And so we started to think, how can we support this next step and make it just as seamless and frictionless as moving over the direct deposit was? And so that was kind of the second big product that Atomic started to focus on. And then fast forward pretty shortly after we started building payment switching, we wanted to start thinking beyond these 2 more transactional pieces, so point-in-time type actions. And we were brainstorming ways that we could develop products that would keep that consumer coming back to their bank account and finding value and insights within that bank account with some of our tools. This was something we continuously heard from our customers, and we knew that a tool like this would really help enhance their existing products and help the banks drive more digital engagement with their users. And so this is where subscription management starts to come onto the scene. We've seen an emergence of subscription management in the space, and we've seen some really good adoption of those products in the last couple of years. We also understand from some of our market data that there's a lot of consumers that want to see this type of functionality directly in their banking app rather than a standalone product. And some of the stats to do that, I don't know if we have our slides going at all. Isabella, is that something we're able to share? There's just a couple of market stats that I was hoping to run through. Okay, no worries. Oh, they are being shared. I just can't see them for some reason. Okay, perfect. So hopefully slide 3 is being shown. So again, our products are really around how can we help the financial institutions boost activity and build loyalty within their customer base. And again, we have our own hypotheses, but we like to rely on feedback from our customers as well as market data to drive our decision making. And so some of the data suggests that 88% of banking customers say the experience is as important or more important than the products and services. The second stat will probably come as no surprise to anybody that 8 in 10 consumers would prefer a digital banking experience. Obviously the younger generations in today's age are very tech savvy and want things to be done, quickly and in real time. And then for the bank side, if you have a customer that engages within the first 30 days, it's said that they're going to be 2.5 times more likely to become a long-term user. So it's really about, once you have them in the door, how can you get them engaged early on and get them excited about, what you have to offer them. And then, we talked a little bit earlier on about primacy. Once you gain that primary spot, it's reported that that user will have about 26 monthly transactions. And then the last kind of stat I'll share here is a lot around our drive for building subscription management, which again is a tool to bring users back because it's stated that you want consumers coming back to their banking app at least 4 times a month to drive retention with that user. And we can switch to the next slide. And so we talked a little bit about why payment switching and bill management. It's obviously there's a strong need for this. It's even reported that subscription management is a top 3 banking app feature requested by consumers. And 85% of consumers, again, want this built right into their banking app. We all have lots of different tools and subscriptions. And so if we can help streamline that into something that they're already using, then that's even better. And then on the payment switching side, a lot of people have most of their spend coming out of their primary credit or debit card, 9 out of 10 users. So if you're able to start to capture some of that spend, there's a very strong likelihood that you have that primary spot with that user. And we can go ahead and switch to the next slide. I just wanted to also share some of the early findings that we're seeing in the payment switching space. So the average monthly reoccurring spend is about $128. In Atomic's product, we have about 70 plus merchants covered, which accounts for 80 to 90% of that total spend. And so as you can imagine, a lot of people have things like Amazon and Netflix. Those very popular subscriptions make up a big chunk of kind of the market share of reoccurring payments. And so that's a little bit about kind of Atomic as a company, the 3 main products. We've had some ancillary products that have come off of these, but for the sake of today's discussion, really, these are the 3 main pillars: direct deposit switching, and we're going to focus today mostly in payment switching and subscription management. So I have Andrea on with me as well. Andrea is, as it was mentioned earlier, co-founder as well as our chief product officer. And so she's really going to dive into a bit more of like demoing these products, showing you what they actually look like, and different ways that you could, potentially think about bringing these to fruition within your application. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Andrea.
Great, thanks, Kyle. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Before I dive into actually giving you a demo of some of the experiences that can be built on our bill management platform, I want to talk a bit about what we've learned over the past year and a half or so as we've launched and have been continuing to iterate on what we now refer to as our bill management platform. When we first came to market, we did refer to our bill management platform more as subscription management. And over time, that's really evolved into bill management for a key reason. And I'll talk about that as we go through. But what we found are really that consumers are looking for these four pillars of activity that they can do within their bank or fintech application. And so I'll go through the demo and talk about these, and I want to kind of give a heads up beforehand. So the first one's clarity. So really, consumers are craving clarity into visibility into their recurring spend. So those monthly bills that they have, those subscriptions that they have that are ever growing, they're looking for clarity and understanding and a centralized location to understand like what is my recurring spend look like on a monthly basis? What are those bills that are going to catch me by surprise every 6 months that I pay? And they want visibility into that. The second is discovery. As you talk to consumers and you ask them, hey, how do you think you're doing with your Verizon bill, your telecom bill, your insurance? How do you compare to others? Nobody really has an understanding. They don't know if their rate's higher, if their rate's lower. And so helping them understand and discover where they can do better in their finances, be that with their cash flow, with specific bills, giving them suggestions and really holding their hand and making them feel confident that they're really doing the best that they can with what they have. The third, and this is really a big differentiator in how we build our products at Atomic, is we want account holders to be able to take action in real time in the bank or fintech application without needing to wait days, without needing to wait and see if it happened. And so really focusing on agency, not just discovery and giving insights, but a lot of the ways that personal financial management tools have fallen flat in the past, in addition to just cumbersome onboarding flows, is that they don't really help users take action. They would give insights or give suggestions, but not allow them to take action. And so we're going to talk a bit today about taking action, being able to do things like cancel and pause your subscriptions, make payments, really all from one centralized location. And lastly, the one theme that kept coming up over and over again is confidence. So really having peace of mind that I'm not going to get hit with surprise fees. I'm really getting the most value for my money. I'm not going to get hit with a fee because I paid late because I thought a payment went through bill pay and it didn't arrive on time. And so really giving consumers and account holders the confidence to feel that they're doing the best that they can. And so with these four things in mind, I'm going to jump over to sharing my screen and walking through a demo that's going to talk about how Atomic's bill management platform helps with all of these. All right. And as I pull this open here, one other point that I want to make as I'm heading into this demo is this is an example of what you can build on our platform. One of the things about Atomic's bill management platform and the approach that we've taken is that it's not a single, hey, here's the full interface, you have to implement it, you can't customize it. We really have a few different options around whether you want to build your own custom experience, whether you want to integrate this at multiple points within your bank workflow, or whether you want to take our out of the box, what we refer to as bundled UIs, and implement those within our SDK to go through the experiences. And so today, what I'm actually going to demo here is a concept of a payments hub that we've taken to kind of wrap all of the functionality into one location for demo purposes. But each of these pieces can also be pulled out, added into transaction details, added into just suggestion workflows within your application. And so it's really plug and play and however you want to consume the different pieces of this experience. But let's look at what these look like. So as I head into my fake bank application here, you can see I have this action for managing my payments. This is really a concept of within your bank having an area of a payments hub where consumers can go, account holders can go and get a view of all their payments. The first thing that I'm going to do when I click into this payments hub is I'm going to scan their transaction history for recurring payments. So we've developed an algorithm that helps specifically look at what are those recurring payments that you have, cleansing those transactions around those recurring payments, and then taking a look at proactively identifying like what the next amount and date is likely to be. So really a lightweight onboarding experience, not asking them to connect a whole bunch of accounts, not asking them to do a whole bunch of work in order to get to a point where they're getting immediate value on that clarity pillar of who am I paying and being able to view that all in one location. And so in this view here, we found 14 of the recurring payments. We've also highlighted, hey, this looks like it was last paid in July. We're now in September. This one might be out of date. I'm going to go ahead and ignore this here. So I'm also not forcing them into the list that I've identified. I'm letting them clean up and curate this list to be able to track what they want to track. Let's assume that I also canceled Walmart Plus. I know that I've canceled that. It was last paid in August, but I didn't pay it in September because I had canceled it. I'm going to go ahead and ignore that one as well. And I get to a point where as I'm reviewing these, I feel confident that these are all of my recurring payments. And I'm going to continue into my payments dashboard here. This payments dashboard, this payments hub is really going to be the central point of clarity. Can come in at any time. I can review what are my upcoming payments, when are they expected to hit my account. As we connect certain ones of these, we have data on merchants to understand, is it a subscription that has auto pay? Is it not? As I continue through this experience, you'll see opportunities for the account holder to go ahead and connect directly to merchants through our TrueAuth technology. When I do that, we can also read things like auto pay. So do I have auto pay on? Is this automatically going to come out? Or are these bills that I need to continue to pay on an ongoing, on a manual basis, and I'll need to make sure I'm making a payment by that due date. We also have this area, so talking about discovery, we start to talk about our suggestions engine. So our suggestions engine is going to work at a baseline off of just the transaction data. So even from just the transaction data that we get, we're going to go ahead and compare somebody's payments to others in situations like them and start to bring up suggestions of actions that they can take, or suggestions that they might be overpaying or underpaying, or ways that they can get greater clarity. And so one of the immediate suggestions that's going to come up here is that I have this Apple recurring debit, but I'm not sure what I'm actually paying for within this. So a lot of the times when we see these Apple recurring payments, if you go ahead and ask the consumer, what is this for? They would just say, I don't know, I must have subscribed to some things through Apple. And they just kind of let that go, assuming that it's there. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to review my Apple subscriptions. As I review these subscriptions, we're going to head into the core of what Atomic does, which is utilize our TrueAuth technology to allow consumers to log in directly on the merchants in order to authorize Atomic to capture data and take action on their behalf. So in this case with Apple, once I press continue here, I'm going to sign in directly on the Apple site. We're going to go ahead and pull all of the subscriptions that are linked to their Apple account and give them a chance to review those and take action on those. And so I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to log in to my Apple account directly on the Apple site. In the way that we log in, that we use our TrueAuth technology to log in directly on the Apple site, I'm also going to complete any multi-factor authentication, any of the things that would typically hold people up. And if you're familiar with the early days of Plaid's technologies around more traditional, how traditional screen scraping worked, two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication was a big sticking point. And the way that we've built TrueAuth, it's not a point at all. The consumer is going to go ahead and verify they're on their own device. In the background now, I'm pulling all of my Apple subscriptions so that I can review these in one place. So now instead of seeing, hey, I have like one recurring Apple subscription, you can see a list of what I am paying for Apple, upcoming renewal dates or when they renewed. And I can take action right here as well. So maybe I didn't realize that I have this annual payment that would be upcoming at the, and I can go ahead and cancel that right from here. So I can so that I can take care of that while I'm reviewing this and while I'm looking at this. And as I look through and I'm okay of all of these and I head back into my payments home, I now have that second level of clarity on what was within my Apple subscriptions. As I'm in there as well, we're going to go ahead and pull some additional data to enrich the data that we have and personalize additional suggestions. So we talked about suggestions just from transaction data, but once I've started connecting some of my accounts, I'm going to get the data from those accounts in order to generate additional suggestions. So an example of this might be that I have a subscription within Apple, and we can see what are the other billing contracts that are available within Apple, and how much could I save by potentially switching from a monthly billing model to an annual billing model in this case. And so if we see somebody's had a subscription for 9 months, they're paying monthly, they're almost at that year mark anyways, it looks like they're going to continue to use it, we'll go ahead and make a suggestion that says, hey, you could actually be saving by switching to an annual plan. And we'll give them the ability to take that action right within here as well. We also have started working on being able to pull in features from our bank and fintech customers to understand what's available within their application to include those in our suggestion engine. So if there's a pay in 4 program where maybe this person has not done annual because they don't have the cash flow, but they would be able to still find the savings and split that into a pay in 4, we can start to show those types of suggestions as well. From there, I'm going to move into talking a little bit. As I mentioned, we started with subscription management within this platform and expanded it into bill management and a payments hub concept. But we do have a lot of the traditional subscription management functionality built right into this payments hub as well. So if you're just looking to review your subscriptions, cancel, pause, change plans, all of that's going to work very similarly. So I have my summer health subscription here. I want to go ahead and cancel it. It's due tomorrow. I no longer use it. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it. It's going to follow the same paradigm. This is going to be what we call an automated action. So as I log in, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and cancel this subscription on their behalf. So there's nothing for the user to do here. They're going to wait. We're going to cancel it. We're going to confirm. So talking about that, that confidence step, one of the struggles that a lot of people have with applications and subscription management functionality is sometimes they get a, hey, we put in a request to cancel this, we'll let you know in a few days, or other messaging like that in a lot of the apps that they've used in the past. And that doesn't help. This person, the bill was due tomorrow. They don't know if they're going to get charged or not, if that's the case. Instead, we're able to do this in real time, give them real-time feedback that this has been canceled right here and now. And then they can return back and get that confidence within their banking app as well that cancellation happened, and they're no longer going to be liable for their card to be charged the next day. Moving over into the bills section of things, again, talking about agency, taking action. Another way that we can do this, we talked about an automated action like canceling, but what I'm going to take a look at here is what we would refer to as more of a web view action, and this is going to be around making a payment. So one of the most requested actions that we've had over time as we've continued to build out this platform, and a lot of the impetus from moving from a traditional subscription management functionality into thinking about it as a payments hub or a bill management, is the question of how does this sit alongside traditional bill pay? So your traditional bill pay that you have today, where checks can be sent out or payments can be sent out from the bank to third-party providers. We know usage of that is declining, but it tends to be very sticky. And so how do the remainder of the 80 to 90% of people who aren't using a traditional bill pay solution pay their bills, and how can that be centralized and create engagement within the bank application? And so that's really where this payments flow comes into play. So I'm going to go into my Verizon bill that's due tomorrow as well, and I need to make a payment on this. I need to know that this payment is going to arrive by tomorrow. I would typically make this payment on the Verizon site. Through Atomic's flow, I'm going to be able to make that payment on the Verizon site, but without ever leaving my bank application. So I'm going to get ahead and hit pay now. I'm going to log in as I would directly to the Verizon site. And as I do that, I'm going to be deep linked right into the pay my bill part of the app of the Verizon site. I can go ahead and control that payment amount, the payment date. Also would be able to, right within this, update my payment method to pull in a payment method from the bank application that I'm within. And we'll talk about that as I go through our payment switching experience next, but how those two things can play together. I could go ahead and change that to a different method I want. And I'm going to make that payment on the Verizon site so that I can have the confidence that it went through, that Verizon's received it. There's going to be no disruption to my service. I know the amount. And as I complete that payment and come back into my banking application, I'll see that reflected in real time in this payments hub as well. Even if the transaction hasn't hit or processed yet, that data can be shared from the Verizon site back to the bank application to be updated in real time for the consumer. So again, to summarize, in terms of the functionality that we're bringing here, clarity, what am I paying? Who am I paying? How often am I paying it? What do I have coming up? We're talking about discovery. Where can I save? How can I do better? Am I getting a good deal? We'll talk about that again in just a second and some of our roadmap item of where we're headed with a lot of this. Third is agency. How do I take action in real time, get feedback on that action, and never leave the bank or the fintech application? And last is confidence, just confidence that I can handle all of this, I know all of this, and I feel that I'm in a good control of my finances and I'm not going to get hit with fees and I'm getting the best rates and that my payments are going through in real time as I make them here. With all that said, I'm going to talk for just a second about some of the direction of where we're headed as well with our suggestions engine. So as I mentioned, right now today, we do a lot of suggestions based on your transaction data. We do suggestions based on what I would call like your individual plan details. Another big one is phone plans. A lot of people don't understand like what add-ons are on their phone plan, how they're using their phone plan, whether they might be on a plan from 8 years ago that has a better rate for similar services today. So we do a lot of looking at your individual phone plan, analyzing it, and giving you suggestions. But where we're headed with a lot of things, insurance being the one that we're actively working on right now, is helping you compare across providers as well. So instead of just taking your specific insurance plan or your specific phone plan and making recommendations on changing that plan, we're starting to look at how do we compare and give you the opportunity to switch from provider to provider. And so in the insurance use case, just to give you a sense of how this would work, right, we're going to go ahead and have the user connect to their existing insurance policy, just like you saw through TrueAuth. They're going to log into Geico or Progressive or Safeco, whoever their current insurance policy is. We're going to be able to pull back all of their rates, vehicles, drivers, accident history. So all of the things that would typically go into a quoting process, where if you're familiar with any of the solutions in market today around a lot of this, it asks the account holder or the consumer to sit there and type in and retype in a lot of data, leading to a lot of drop off. By allowing them to streamline that, we're going to go out. We're working with some partners today that are going to help us shop and find better rates. So we're able to take that information, pass it off to our partners who have experience in this space, generate real quotes. So not just advertisements for quotes, but generate real quotes based on your existing policy today, and then show you those quotes and help you switch over if it makes sense. We're also only going to show you quotes if you can get a better rate. That's another friction point that we've heard in a lot of these flows, is that I click in, I fill in all my information just to find out I'm getting a worse rate or the same rate. So really being able to personalize these offers and help consumers shop. On the bank side of things, the nice part as we move into this provider comparison space is that there's a lot of affiliate acquisition costs, that revenue that can be generated from it. So as you're able to bring in consumers who are looking to save who are able to save elsewhere, we're also able to capture some of that acquisition and affiliate revenue cost and pass that back between us and our bank and fintech partners as an additional revenue stream to help with the ROI on these bill management and payment hub solutions. Great. I'm sure there are probably some questions in the chat. I am going to run very quickly through our payment switching, which has a specific bundled UI that we'll look through, and then we'll stop to take questions here. So our payment switching solution is going to look very similar to what you just saw with a lot of our bill management capabilities. But the difference here within this bundled UI is that it's really focused on the onboarding experience as a companion SDK to our direct deposit. And when I say companion, I actually just mean companion product. all of our solutions, including our bill management, our payment switching, and our direct deposit, are in one SDK. So once you've installed our SDK, you can access all of those without needing to install any additional technology in the mix. But our payment switching solution, what we found here is really the best point to integrate this is when the user first funds their account. So in one of the slides that Kyle showed, it talked about the average monthly spend moved immediately upon account funding. And so what we've really seen is at that point in time, whether it's from the first direct deposit hitting, whether it's from an account funding event hitting, once funds hit that account is the perfect time to incentivize and to prompt the user to go ahead and update their payments as well to start pulling from that account. And so that number really comes from the first session within payment switching. Once the account is funded, what do we see people doing? How many? We see them moving around 3 to 4 bills on average within that, bills and subscriptions on average, which is accounting for that $128. And so that's what this experience is focused on. Our customers are embedding this within a few different points within their application. So the first one being any account onboarding checklists that they have, really highlighting it again upon account funding. Hey, here's your next checklist item to take advantage of. We see a lot of uptick if you have an area where they're managing their cards, having a way to link your card from within there, as well as any general navigation items or any account level callouts. And so as the consumer comes in to move over their payments, they're going to be asked who they pay. One other call out here as well is that similar with our recurring transaction detection, if you do have an open banking provider that you're utilizing today to help them aggregate external transactions as part of the onboarding flow, those can be passed into us. We'll analyze them for recurring spend or for spend on any of these merchants that we support. We'll map that over and we'll add a little tab here that just says for you. So personalizing this experience to that specific account holder. And then as I go through, I'm going to use Amazon as an example here. As I click into Amazon, I'll see that I could select which payment method I want to add to my Amazon account. We control whether ACH is supported or not, or just cards at the merchant level. Our customers can pass us whatever cards or ACH accounts they want. And then the consumer, the account holder, can choose which one they want to link to each individual merchant. In this case, I'll stick with my credit card. I'm going to go ahead and sign in via our TrueAuth technology. I'm going to sign in directly on Amazon again. And as I complete the Amazon sign-in process, we're going to go ahead and in the background link this card. This takes on average, I think our average is now down to under 10 seconds. It usually takes around 7 or 8 seconds on average to add that card to their account. You can see it happened almost right away here. Over time, the user will start to see that loading indicator, that connecting indicator, only lasts for around 2 to 3 seconds as we bring them back here as they become a power user, switching more and more of these solutions. I can see that my Amazon card was added. What this means is that we have put that card on file to capture top of wallet spend. It will be the default card the next time they go to check out. Any subscriptions that they have linked to Amazon, that card will go on file for those subscriptions, as well as anything additional that they sign up for in the future. And so we really are capturing all of the Amazon spend at once by updating this card on file for them. We're also going to confirm that. It doesn't show it here in our demo UI, but we're also going to confirm that. So as the account holder comes in to see that their card was added, we do display some additional information in terms of where was it added to, what are your subscriptions, if you have sub-subscriptions for something like Amazon or Apple, what were the ones that were updated, which ones do you have, when's your next auto payment date for anything, and whether or not for big bills you have auto pay on or not. And so then the consumer can just continue through. And our coverage today, to give a sense, we have over 80 different merchants that we support. We really focused at first on a lot of the subscription services, cable and internet, insurance, cell providers. And as we continue, you can see here, we're starting to move more into utilities providers and a lot of the ACH heavy bills and payments. They're going to be your larger numbers around loans and mortgages, and utility providers are really on our roadmap for where we're headed next. All right, that was a lot. Webinars are always a little awkward because you're just talking at people without a lot of feedback. So I am going to turn it over to Isabella to help with the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea and Kyle. As a reminder, you can drop your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We do have a couple questions to start with. So I have one here that says we've tried rolling out new digital features before and adoption was slower than we expected. How do you actually get customers to use tools you talked about in a meaningful way?
That's a great question. It's something that, I think comes up a lot as we are working through implementation with a lot of our customers. And I'll let Kyle jump in on this one as well, since her team handles a lot of our implementation structure. But I think the first thing that we ask as we start to build isn't about how are you going to integrate it from a tech standpoint. It's what's your plan for this feature? Where are you going to locate it within your app? How are you going to promote it? How are you going to incentivize users to access it and reach it? And so, especially around our direct deposit and payment switching, we talk a lot about the main driver of conversion being a consumer's intent to want to complete these things. And so we'll talk you through like what types of incentives we've seen work. There's always a trade-off between top of funnel volume and awareness and just qualifying people in order to convert them higher. So I'd say a lot of it sort of depends on your strategy, what type of adoption you're looking for, but placement within the application, training, if you have in-person branches, training of branch staff is a huge part of this as well. So as somebody walks into the branch, you have available flyers for them. Your branch staff can talk about the features and why they might want to adopt them and use them. As well as, yeah, just where in the application, what sort of marketing campaigns around email blasts or awareness you have going on as well are all going to be big talking points that our team would work through and that we've seen really drive the uptick of features such as these.
Yeah, I would agree with Andrea on all those points. I think one big one to call out that was mentioned is just communication. So making sure that you're continuously communicating to the end consumers about these products because everyone's going to have a different appetite for when they want to do these, whether it's like during the onboarding or a little while after. And so continuously putting it front and center to them that it's available, I think is something that's worked really well for customers that have optimized in that way.
Great. I have another question here. It says, are the payment choices available only card and direct ACH based, or can it be mobile wallets, bill payment services, or P2P?
That is so today in the way that our payment switching technology works, we're capturing the payment methods from the bank. As most of our banks or fintechs are looking to add their own cards or ACH information. And if we were to make it a mobile wallet, or something of that sort, then, it typically might not be that bank's account or card. So we've really stuck to ACH and card at the moment, although we do allow for our account holders to update the account that's within those wallets. So say your PayPal wallet, your Venmo wallet, your Cash App wallet, you can go ahead and link your bank account into those to make peer-to-peer payments or to make, I know rent is a big one. We've really pushed those as an option for a lot of people are paying their rent via, Venmoing their roommate or things of that nature, or Venmoing their landlord. And so in that case, the way that this would work is they open a new account, they can put their new account or their card on file at Venmo so that the next time they go to pay their rent to their landlord or to their roommate, it will pull from that account as well. And we hope that answers whoever's question there. In terms of bill pay, we are not doing bill pay switching. So this is a question, a frequently asked question is, do you go into their bill pay within their existing bank account and move everything over to bill pay within their new bank account? That is not within our wheelhouse of what we do or what we intend to do. We look to move those payments to being paid on a third party service instead. So really focused on what are the bills that you're paying through third parties, through the third party payer. And what we found in the industry is that, 80 to 90+% of payments are typically being made that way, with the remaining ones being made via bill pay and cash or checks.
do have another question here. Um, it is, our teams manage multiple vendors and core integrations. How heavy of a lift is it really to implement solutions like this? And hold on, and I'm trying to find it. Lost it for a second. How heavy of a lift is it really to implement solutions like this? And what have other banks learned about reducing internal friction?
Sure. I think, and Kyle, you can take, hand over to you the point on reducing internal friction, but in terms of the technical integration here, really what we're looking at in a lot of our bundled UIs, it's going to depend on how many placement points where you're going to put it in your application, but we've seen some customers do it as quickly as 2 weeks. I'd say the average amount of time for a bundled UI is probably about 3 months from end to end, from when you start the project, design it, integrate it, test it, roll it out into production. We see usually, then there's usually a ramp up period as well around doing some friends and family testing, and then a slower ramp up to, 100% of traffic coming through it. So I'd say 3 months tends to be the average to get it live, to start that ramp process. When we talk about our, bill management platform, that's really going to depend on how deep and how many touch points you want to put it in. And so there's really a lot of flexibility there. And I'd say one of the ways that we've seen this working is picking a very lightweight integration option. Let's say putting a call to action on a phone bill within the transaction list that says, see if I can save, right? So that integration lift in terms of the design of your app, really small, adding a button within the transaction list after you know that it's one of the main cell carriers within that transaction, and then opening our SDK to go through that. That's going to be a very small lift that allows you to kind of test it out, doing a little bit of campaign around that, and then allowing you to see like what does engagement of your user base look like in that model? Like how many people are going through it? Are they finding savings, getting a taste for it, and being able to pull some of the data from that to build into your larger use case around, okay, how do you begin to then expand that into either other transactions having actions on them, like canceling a subscription directly from within there, or building more of, a full payments hub or integrating more of our full payments hub. That is going to be a little larger lift. We're going to need to capture the recurring payments either from your course system and or from open banking. And so we're really looking as a starting point for either those transactions that are happening through open banking or those transactions that are happening on core getting passed into us to do the recurring subscription analysis. And then we'll be able to, based on those, we'll be able uh, to then like build out the user interface. So that is a little bit more of an integration point because there is some back and forth in terms of like how those transactions are being passed, how they're being analyzed, how they're being updated frequently and regularly. And so I'd say that's closer to, I'd say around 4 to 5 months, a little added time in order to get that full experience built up.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, okay.
the in stakeholder and internal management.
Yeah, I would say, in order to reduce friction internally, I think where we've seen things go really well is when a customer has like a solid core implementation team. And so there's alignment really early on between Atomic and our customers. And that might be people from, engineering as well as like design folks to really help manage that process end to end. So we're typically meeting with that core group pretty frequently during implementation. And I think just really teasing out both technical questions, design questions, talking about incentives. How is this going to work specifically for you all versus maybe other customers we've worked with? And so just really clear communication between the two teams and making sure there is a strong group of support on the customer side, I think helps reduce friction throughout this process.
Thanks, Kyle and Andrea. I think we can do, so we have another question here. For the banks that have already implemented a solution like this, what kind of lift are they seeing, whether in direct deposit capture, engagement, or retention?
Sorry, Isabel, could you read that one more time? I think I saw another question that was coming in and I was reading it at the same
Oh,
time.
yeah. Yeah. hold on, read it again. For the banks that have already implemented a solution like this, what kind of lift are they seeing, whether in direct deposit capture, engagement, or retention?
Sure. Yeah, so in terms of, direct deposit switching, there's really two key indicators in terms of the, business use case and the lift that they're seeing around it. One is just an overall gain in direct deposits, and that can be a gain of anywhere from 1 percentage points to 4 percentage points of your current direct deposit uptick rate. So depending on sort of, again, placement, incentives, what you're running, what your product is, you can see a lift anywhere within that. And then the other side is speed to first deposit. So another thing that, yeah, I think Kyle mentioned within some of the market data is just how quickly that you activate, fund, and start using your account. It tends to be a leading indicator of longevity and whether you make the complete switch over to using it as a primary account. And so one of the biggest benefits of the direct deposit switching solution that we see is that account holders are funding their account in an average of like 14 days from when they first open the direct deposit area of that application. So whatever that is. So typically in the past, when somebody like downloads a form, and a lot of you would probably know this better for your individual user base, but from when somebody like downloads a form or looks at the instructions to when you first see a deposit, it's usually closer to 30 or 40 days. And so reducing that down to 14 days, really getting that engagement earlier within the onboarding process in order to build that stickiness. And then the payment switching side of things is going to complement that as well, right? So once once they do have a deposit or are funding that account, really being able to move that spend quickly and to help give confidence that they're moving all of that spend is going to be the main use of that product. Kyle,
Great, I think we
anything to add there? Yeah, I think I covered that one.
yes, another question here. Can you share the statistics again on the actual use of the bill pay now? What are people switching from when they move to Atomic?
So I think two different statistics around uptick here that I can share. There's the payment switching, and then there is the bill management pieces of things that we have live and in market. So on the payment switching side, again, we're usually seeing that first session. So it's really a journey towards capturing like more and more of the payments of a user, especially through the solution. We're not naive. We see very few people who are going to sit there and be like, hey, I'm going to log into 10 to 12 different merchants in one session, right? There's just authentication fatigue within that. And so even though we have ways to reduce that with password managers and suggestions of your accounts and things of that nature, what we see is that on average, they switch around 3 to 4 bills the first time that they're going through the payment switching experience. And that usually comes out to around $128 for that first session. Which is immediately on funding is typically the timing that we see around like when they're taking that action. And so, uh, and so, in that case,
Accessibility shortcuts.
and then over time, we do see them come back and start to build and start to add in additional merchants to get up closer to around 6 or 7 bills within a 30 to 40 day time frame is what we see on average. And then on the bill management and payments hub types of piece of things, what we're seeing right now around adoption, and really, as I mentioned, we came to market first with subscription management functions, then started adding in a lot of the payments functionality. So around the subscription management functions, we're seeing that we're hearing from our customers that around 40 to 50% of their user base are interacting with the subscription management feature regularly. So coming in just to kind of see their list of subscriptions. And then out of that entire user base, we're seeing around 4 to 8% are taking some sort of action to cancel or pause or change a plan within that as well. The number one action that we see on our side today within the subscription management service is around 20 to 30% of those account holders are connecting to an Apple or an Amazon or a Google where they're trying to uncover like, what am I paying within these different. So that first use case, we kind of walk through what am I paying within these different subscription aggregators or subscription wallets. And so we really see that once somebody connects to one of those, their action rate to cancel is significantly higher. It's about 3x higher, their likelihood to cancel something based on that. As well. And then we're really just at the beginning of, the making a payment side of the journey. We're seeing some early indicators that would make us believe that that engagement, that will drive higher engagement than just subscription management alone. But to be transparent, we're really too early to tell exactly what those numbers will look like.
Yeah, and I think from a merchant standpoint, it might be helpful to share like some of the top merchants that we're seeing. I think there was a question around like what are people switching when they move to Atomic? So on the payment switching side, we're seeing a lot of the popular names like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, DoorDash, Uber, cell phone bills are a big one that are pretty concentrated in a few providers. So those are some of kind of the top ones that we're seeing in our early findings.
I think we have one more question here, probably time for one more question. Can you share what fraud prevention tools are built into Atomic's platform? Also, has Atomic encountered any instances of fraud related to direct deposit switching, specifically cases where a fraudulent actor opens an account and redirects someone else's direct deposit?
So there are a few different fraud tools that we have built in or fraud related checks that we have built in. So one of our main methods of direct deposit switching today is what we refer to as our co-auth technology. And that's actually our direct relationships with payroll providers. And in those instances, when we have those direct integrations with payroll providers and our customers are sending us some information about the user, we're making sure that there's a direct match. So in those instances, we're usually looking at social security number, last name, date of birth, phone number, and we're making sure that all of that information matches between the bank application and the payroll application. So ensuring that there's a one-to-one between like whose paycheck somebody's moving and whose the account was open on behalf of. We're also in all of those cases doing a multi-factor authentication to the phone number that's on file with the payroll system. So ensuring that the phone number for the paycheck is accessible by the user that's coming through this flow and doing that multi-factor authentication. Additionally, we have some fraud tools for more of our true auth side of things and where we're kind of looking at how many times has somebody attempted to log into the same system with different credentials as an example. So if we see an account holder more than twice try to connect like a number of different payroll systems to the same account, then that we'll kind of shut them down. We won't let them through as well.
Yeah, and another point to add there is if you think about what a bad actor, like they'd have to be inside of the person's banking application and then they would be logging into somebody else's HR system. So it would be kind of like a counterintuitive way to get into the HR system is to like go into a bank to then go into the HR. So there's a little bit of like a natural layer of protection there from bad actors. And then obviously the MFA that most payroll systems have is another layer as well. But if somebody did have somebody else's payroll system credentials, it's far more likely that they would probably go directly to that website rather than going the roundabout way to go in through the bank application first.
All right, we have one more question here. I think we have enough time just for this and then we'll close out. But do you have direct integrations with other depositors like Social Security, Vet Administration, etc. yet, or is that an on-product roadmap?
We do not today. That's something we have a team that's in charge of our strategic product partnerships, and that's on their radar, is to look at establishing direct integrations with those depositors. I think all of these things take time in order to establish relationships, work out terms, figure out all the measures that would go into place. So not today, and I wouldn't foresee that being within this year either.
think that's all the questions we got in. And we're almost at the top of the hour. So do you guys have any, final statements or anything you'd like to say before we close out?
Just thank you all for joining us today. If anything you saw here is of interest to you, we're happy to answer any questions, set up any one-on-one demos. I think the recording, I understand, is going to be sent out. We'll also make sure that any information around, how to contact us. We love talking, even if you're not really thinking about integrating these features in the near future, but you just want to submit feedback on the direction we're headed, or you have some thoughts on it. We love capturing feedback. We love hearing from customers and prospects around what they're thinking about and really collaborating closely with our customers on our product development. So please feel free to reach out, contact us. We can schedule something, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you, Andrea and Kyle, and everyone at Atomic. Really appreciate you taking time out of your afternoon, and thank you to everyone for joining. As stated, this has been recorded and will be available within 1 to 2 business days. On behalf of CBA, again, thank you to our speakers and to everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, you all have my email, and I'm happy to connect you with our friends at Atomic. Have a great afternoon, and you may now disconnect. Thanks, guys.